All right, guys. Welcome to episode 10 of The Lovely.
Oh my gosh. Welcome to the show. We have Vin Zavith here, a promoter extraordinaire. He owns Zavith Gym. How long have you had that gym now?
10 years actually.
Holy cow, congratulations, man. You made it through the 5-year hump.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a big deal. Yeah, so he's had his gym for 10 years and he started tell us about SAA.
SAA is really just as a nonprofit. We started it to promote Southeast Asian culture, and Muay Thai is a big part of Southeast Asian culture. So we just wanted to make sure we promote our sport closest to our culture as possible,
Dope.
and be able to preserve our culture in the same time, just a way that our ancestors or people that came before me can respect too.
Nice. And then I mean obviously that your promotion reflects that. Tell us about a little bit about your current show that you're putting on and how you're trying to preserve that culture within that show.
So we have Stadium Champ Grand Prix. It's all fights are 5 rounds. So we're trying to basically honor all the people that are down to fight 5 rounds. Because Muay Thai started off as 5 rounds. Not very many people know that, because of one championship has started and whatnot. But they're more used to that 3 round system, right? That entertainment Muay Thai. So we're just trying to preserve the original Muay Thai style and honor guys that are just Muay Thai purists, that have been around
Yeah.
before the entertainment Muay Thai.
I saw a video recently where a coach was asked about like a couple of like the older stadium fighters like from the golden era like Diesel Noy, and they were asking like, hey, would or a Sakman Cole, would a Diesel Noy, a Sakman Cole technician style Muay Thai, would that be someone that's prominent today? And he without hesitation said no way, they wouldn't even be a known name because of the way that Muay Thai is kind of evolving into this, especially within one FC, it's kind of evolving into this. I don't know, like you said, entertainment style Muay Thai, right? Where it's like a lot of action, a lot of fight, a lot of brutality, but there's not a lot of really cool technique to watch. There's not a lot of like technician style athletes. And I would assume that's
Right.
something that you're trying to kind of preserve.
Yeah, I mean, we are a FEMA gym, right? FEMA basically means technical, and it's a hard style to teach, but it's the most beautiful to watch. And
Right.
I feel like female fighters probably wouldn't do that well in one, just because it's defensive based, right? It's a way to
Right.
protect yourself. It's not just about causing damage; it's defending the damage.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I agree with you there. I think a lot of like you would take a couple rounds to kind of establish your rhythm before you can start attacking. Like you said, it is very defensive. 3-round fight is going to be very difficult to establish that kind of rhythm and study your opponent,
right.
and get a very technical, well executed knockout kind of, so to speak. Um, but moving on to the topic of the night, which is basically it's something that it's a kind of a chicken or the egg kind of deal, right?
Right.
Is who's responsible for promoting shows? And we did a poll today, and I mean it was pretty much of a landslide. About 98% out of, I think it was like 50 people voted, and 98% of the people said that both promoter and athlete are responsible for promotion, because in the end of the day, especially as small as our sport is, our sport is not boxing, level. It's not MMA level as far as financial, as far as as financial backing and viewership. But it's getting there. But it's important that everybody kind of contribute a little bit. And I want to know what your thoughts are on that. Like, cause I was surprised. I thought maybe a lot of people were going to say promoter, because that's inherently what the job is of a promoter, right? So I think one person voted for promoter and one person voted, out of all those people, voted as like the fighter should be promoting himself because he is the draw. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, as far as like primarily who should be really like, you've been in all those hats, right? You've been a fighter, you've been a coach, you are a coach, and now you are a promoter. Sitting in all those hats, what would you say with that question? How would you respond to that?
I feel like it's cumulatively everyone's job, like, yeah, it's my job to promote fighters and find the talent, but it also is their job for me to recognize them. You know what I mean? Like, if they're not promoting themselves, if they don't have a skill, I'm not going to be able to find them.
Right.
So I think it's a group effort. If I can find you and I feel like you have talent, I'm going to try to put you on. I'm going to try to give you that stage or give you a platform to showcase your skills and go from there, right? If we build a good relationship, then we'll keep on going. And if not, then we just kind of part ways. But my job is to promote athletes and make sure that they have opportunity to fight and also have good challenges. So that's kind of like where I stand with it.
Awesome. I mean, I know a lot of, I've promoted in the Valley. Me, Ryan, and Brandon have promoted shows in the Valley, and now obviously we have the U.S. Open, and we understand the value of having an athlete with a draw, and understanding that the athlete should probably understand the economics of how a fight goes, right? Like, there's a lot of people that are sometimes new to the sport, and they don't really understand. They feel like everything is owed to them, and they go in and they think that the promoters are I love the ones that think that the promoters are swimming in money, because that always makes me laugh. And I'm like, wow, man, please. Because you can always tell someone that's new to the game that definitely has never put on a show before, because they always assume that the promoter's just rolling in money, and that it's look at all the people in the stands, like, this guy's making thousands and thousands of dollars a show. And it's like, no, buddy, like, if you only knew the very little bit that comes out of the effort we put in, you probably wouldn't say that.
Because of stigmas too, right? Like, first of all, if you're pushing the fighters to sell tickets, everybody's like, oh, you guys just care about the money. You're like, mandatory, you need to bring at least 20 people, 30 people to come see you, because if you're in ballet and you're 8 years old, at least that many people are going to come see your ballet performance. And it's tough to have that. I also was going to ask Vin what he thought about, because I don't think people understand that if on an amateur side of things, right, if we're promoting a show and we're promoting you as a athlete, who else does that help? Is it just the athlete? Does it help other promoters? Once I'm promoting this athlete, we have no contract because they're amateur. Is there a disconnect, you think, Vin, in that? Because even pro fighters, they struggle to get a good contract. And so if you're promoting them and we're paying money out, as a promoter, can you tell me how that makes sense to do?
I mean, I think it's like any type of business relationship, right? Like, if you guys are planning to work together, I think there should be a common interest of how that should look. So, I mean, if you want me to continue to put on these shows, then you have to help us retain some revenue back, because, like you said, it's not free. We're not just rolling in dough. I mean, luckily, I haven't had to put up any of my own money for our shows, because we're a nonprofit. But I understand those struggles of promoters that need to make money. I mean, that's kind of why I came up with the nonprofit, so that way I don't feel like I need to make money. I just do this for the city.
That's dope. That's really cool. Master Bob said promoters need to take the lead. Coaches and fighters should support. It's easy, just share. And so, I mean, that's I think a very a coach driven interpretation of how promoters should behave. But I think, what do you think about that?
I mean, I agree. I don't have anything against it. You know, I think it's everyone's job to do it. If you all are on the same page and are trying to make the sport grow, trying to make athletes grow, I think we should all collectively work together and make it grow. Right? I'm not only building fighters, but you're also helping me build my promotion. So it's a two-way street.
That's dope. And so with your nonprofit, so that's pretty cool. That the nonprofit uh version is kind of intrigues me because we kind of dabbled with that. I talked to Brandon about maybe starting a nonprofit and it would maybe help us. Like, how is that in comparison to a for-profit? Like, do you guys do and excuse me if I'm overstepping and the economics, but I'm very curious about how a nonprofit would work as a promotion rather than a for-profit.
I mean, it really operates the same way. It doesn't operate any different than a for-profit business. Like, we're still trying to gain revenue so that way we can reinvest it back into the promotion. So everything operates the same way. It's just that the funds that do come in have to be used for a public service.
That's really cool. That's really cool. But that's the same thing, right? Like, if there is no money coming in, it eventually dies, right? There
Absolutely.
doesn't keep going. And so a lot of people, that see that, and I don't want that connotation to go, oh, well, Vin doesn't really need the money because he's just, a nonprofit. It's like, no, the nonprofit needs the money so that it could keep going and
Absolutely.
they can keep growing. And a lot of people maybe don't understand the fact that promotion, sport in general is just a right arm of show business. And if you look at it, in my opinion, like it's a show business, like it's a show and you're entertainers. And there's an obvious, even like, we're talking about, in the news lately with basketball, right? Women's basketball. And the big debate is that, women's basketball just don't make enough revenue as the men and that it's unfair. And I agree, maybe it is unfair, but at the same time, it's all about what you're drawing in.
Right.
And if are you making now, it might be unfair if their draw is equal to the men and they're not making enough. But if their draw isn't equal to the men, it should be an equal percentage of their draw, right? And so a lot of people kind of, I guess, look at, I would say, the business aspect of things and be like, hey, like you should be motivated to sell tickets and try to keep that sport going. Where's some of the things? Go ahead.
I think not only ticket sales are important, but I mean, if you look at the grand scheme of things, like look at these YouTubers, for example. These guys have not a lick of skill, but they're selling out 19,000 spectator arenas. You know what I mean? Like they cracked the code. So that just shows you that not only skills are going to pay the bills. If you just have people that want to see you get beat up or beat somebody up, it's gonna be good. If you're putting asses in seats, excuse my language, but you're gonna be on a promoter's good side.
Right. And that's important. And that's important to hear for especially upcoming fighters is that, that is just as important as your skill set. A lot of fighters really fight. They feel like it's not their responsibility to promote. They, like, oh, that's the promoter's job. It's not my responsibility. But in the end, you should be promoting yourself to give your own self value. Right. Yeah. Because if people are coming out, love you or hate you, right? Let's do the McGregor thing. Right? There's a lot of people that hate him, a lot of people that love him, but guess what? He puts his ass on the seats and he's an interesting character. He talks a lot of shit. Maybe it's not what everybody's cup of tea, but his value is in not that he can win fights because he hasn't won a fight in a while. People still want to watch him fight, but it's his draw. Right. I think that's maybe supersedes your ability to win fights. And
I'd like to take another angle too on this, Tiago, is that, if you've ever been to a smaller Muay Thai fight where there's, 800 people or less, it matters if 30 to 50 of those people are there supporting you while you're in the ring. You hear it, just very different audience responses when you nail a knee.
You
And
can usually tell who sold the most tickets when you in a
right,
show, just by
but not
the
just for that, but also for how well they perform and how the support from their community, comes to back them up. And there's a lot of good that I think that I've seen that comes out of that. So
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of, especially in a small crowd. Arizona's a fairly, and thanks to Bob and setting the groundwork for growth out here. But Arizona's a fairly well known for the Muay Thai community out here. We have shows all the time. Vin is one of the shows that are pretty regular. Pretty much every couple months, Vin's putting on a show, and we've been fortunate enough to be on as my gym. I own Seton Gym. We've had a couple guys on there, and he's putting on an 8-man tournament. He started with one, which is pretty cool, and it was all 5-round bouts, right? Which is something that I think is really good because it really displays the true winner of the fight. You can come back after 2 rounds. In a 3-round fight, you lose the first 2 rounds. And a lot of times that does happen in Muay Thai in a 5-round fight, and come back to win. And so in a 5-round fight, really get to see who the true winner is. Like, what are your thoughts on as far as why 5 rounds over 3?
Like I said, I like the 5-round just because you get more time, right? You get more time to figure out your opponent. I think that's where the difference comes in, where, the 2 rounds in Thailand is meant for gambling, but it's also a way to feel your opponent out, right? Get their timing, get their rhythm down so you can really get the show started. So
You want to explain to people that don't really know? There's a lot of people that watch this show that actually are new to the sport. What are your thoughts on, or what are your thoughts on gambling, maybe possibly in the States, and how does that work in Thailand?
I mean, I'm not against it. I'm actually doing a show in Bangkok in June, and we're actually inviting the gamblers to the show. So
Nice.
I'm all for it. That's what brings the excitement to the shows. Those are the main guys that are screaming because they got skin in the game. So it just makes it more exciting, and I feel like it's a great way to get people excited about the fights.
Yeah, especially got money in the game. Are you gonna allow, like, because I know in Thailand sometimes, this is, a lot of people don't know this, but the gamblers can walk right up to the fighter, and offer them a percentage of their earnings. If I mean, it's happened. I've fought out there and I had a gambler gambling for me and yelling at me in the corner, and I guess I knocked out my opponent a little too early. He was a little upset. But tell us about, like, what the gambling culture is in Thailand.
I mean, I think Asian culture in general, they just like to gamble. And so it doesn't matter what it is. It could be cockfights, it could be people fighting, it could be anything. They're just down to gamble on it. So it's entertainment for them. It's also a way for some villagers to make a lot of money because some of those villages will pool in, just kind of like they're pooling in for a lottery, and they'll be able to survive on that for maybe a couple weeks to a month. So it's gambling is a big thing in Thailand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember my last trip to Thailand. I was in the gym and the guys were gambling over a sticky. They would throw stickies on a window, and the stickies would fall down, and they were gambling on which sticky would fall down first. They gamble on pretty much anything. I was watching in there, and I was laughing because I was like, these kids are just like, 10 baht, and they're cheering on.
Yeah, no, it's wild. It's wild. Even JP was just out there at Omnoy Stadium the other day, and he said he got like a 200,000 baht bet. So they're making money out there.
They make money. Now, do you know whether or not on ONE FC do they gamble on there, or is that something that they've taken away?
So Lumpini does not allow gambling at the stadium because it's government owned now.
Oh, no kidding.
But they do have an app that you can gamble on outside of the stadium.
Like
Oh,
off track betting, essentially.
Yeah, I forgot what it's called. I think it's called like Tiger or something like that. But yeah, they have an app that you can bet on.
so they can't influence the fighter like the old days where the guys, literally gamblers, will run up to the corner and
Yeah,
actually, go ahead.
there's actually a lot of drama going on in Thailand right now with the open scoring and stuff. So there's a lot of conflict right now because when you have open scoring, it ruins the gambling experience.
That's true. Yeah, because and then the odds are pretty solid, right?
Yeah, so a lot of people are upset about that, like the Pet D guys and all the guys that do gambling out there. So
And that's a big line of income for especially the gyms because a lot of those guys they'll bet on their own fighter,
100%.
and make a little bit more extra change, especially if they know their fighter is gonna win. Um, I mean, it's a very interesting perspective because a lot of gambling here in the States are, it's looked down upon, right? Like but they don't understand that like the Muay Thai culture is based on gambling.
Pretty much.
Like that's the first two rounds. Like
Well, and the Thai culture, essentially, right?
well,
They're
yeah,
gambling, a pride of gambling. Like I've seen, you've been to the, we've all, I mean, anybody who's been there, trained hard there, your coaches who train you in Muay Thai typically have their roosters, right? That fight, or what do then they have, that's basically very widespread there. I've been taken after we were in Pattaya for a fight, then the trainer wants to take you back to their camp and show you what they have and their all of their roosters that they're training. And I think you've had that experience, most of us, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's everywhere, bro. They love it. They'll bet on anything they possibly can.
that's a cool thing. It's good to understand how. I mean, because the 5 rounds you said it's been for the longest time. It's been 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Would you say that started because of gambling, or is it something that was prior to gambling?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it probably was manifested off the gambling, though. That way they can measure the odds.
Right. It gives them a little time. Gives the fighters time to kind of. Sometimes I've seen fighters kind of play possum on the rounds to get their odds a little bit better.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
I've seen that a lot, and that game's kind of interesting because you're taking a big gamble, right? Like you're gonna lose a couple rounds, and hopefully you can turn it around and win. I've seen it where these fighters, they're basically instructed. They're instructed to like, hey, don't don't go too hard on this one. I got a lot of money riding on you,
Yeah.
like.
They'll do that. They'll be like, don't turn it on until the 5th round. And then
Yeah, don't try to knock him out in the 4th round. Like, but really, like, play stupid. Like, don't give him too much in the first. And I've seen fights like that where the first 2 rounds are just basically like 2 athletes just looking at each other, teeping each other's thigh and touching, and then all of a sudden, fireworks, all hell breaks loose on 3rd and 4th round. And you have like multiple 8 counts in the round and stuff, and so it's interesting to understand. It's probably good to understand why that does happen, and it's not just like a strategic fight thing, but it's a gambling strategy as well. Make a little bit extra money because the fighters do take sometimes a big percentage of that payout.
Oh,
It's like a symbiotic relationship, right? They've intertwined with each other, and they have to be to create, especially like if you're at the stadium, like Stadium 7, that's a wild experience. I mean, just to be a part of that one time in your life, to go see the deep gambling roots. And, I've said this on a previous event of ours, I'm in Thailand, Farang, and I'm easily spot, you can point me out a mile away, right? If I'm walking through the stadium. So I was surprised, when there was foreigner seating at Stadium 7, that was in the very far back of the stadium. And as I'm walking through, I'm getting yelled at, by the gamblers, like, you know, Farang, back, you know, pointing, you know, where I be, you know, and
Yeah,
I'm a big guy, right? And they don't care,
they
you know,
don't give a shit. Get the
it's
hell out of
because
here.
there's a herd, right? There's like 8, 10 dudes that are all like together, and you know, they
Sometimes
mean
there's some
business.
shady shit going on back there, man. They don't want a white guy walking around freaking. I've been in the with the gamblers, and it gets rough in there, man. It gets pretty rough.
It
Um,
can, yeah.
oh yeah, oh yeah, it gets really rough. And there is a show on Netflix, I think. I don't know if it's still on, but it talks about like the dark side of Muay Thai and gambling and stuff. There's a lot of good to it, but there's also a lot of opportunity for abuse, and that does tend to happen. A lot of people don't really understand that. It's kind of cool show to watch. Vin, I'd like you know, we're coming up here on 26 minutes. I'd like to you have any final thoughts on, promoting and how, athletes and promoters should kind of work?
I just think we should all should work together. You know what I mean? As we build relationships together, we should all focus on the same goal, which is promoting each other as one. You know, whether it's you as a fighter or as the promotion, we just grow together. Like I said, like our promotion has been grassroots. Like I've never like paid for any type of advertising. I've never had to do anything. It's all been community grown. All of our investors that have donated money to us, all community based. So I mean, we just want to grow together, grassroots. Like I'm not trying to do it too fast, dude. You know what I mean? I'm just letting it carry itself on its own.
That's dope, man. Yeah, Ryan, you have any thoughts?
Sure. This is kind of bringing me back here over a decade ago. For you folks who don't know, I have a background in Broadway and television here in New York City. And in that world, producers are solely responsible for promotion of their events, and they use investor dollars to raise enough capital to cover everything from casting, designers, equipment, rehearsals, and of course, marketing and promotion. And I remember when Thiago recruited me into the world of combat sports promotion, over a decade ago. And in the beginning, I was shocked at how much promoters depended on fighters to make shows financially feasible. And it actually reminded me of the way smaller music venues operate with, some smaller commissions or some profit sharing between producers and talent, but a really, really close relationship. But social media has changed the rules and the expectations when it comes to promotion by the talent. And I think in today's world, due to the phenomenon of followers and talent's ability to generate substantial reach, talent is now expected, I think, to be very active in the promotion. And this is just, as things have changed and the way we consume, advertising has changed. I think the talent, whoever you're portraying, has a big part to play in whether your promotion is going to be successful or not.
I agree.
Well
I
said.
mean, yeah, that's a great shit. I mean, Ryan and I used to do, shows in high school, um, back when there was no social media or smartphones. That's dating ourselves quite a bit. But yeah, that that was a different time, right? And it didn't make sense. Like, how would an athlete or a famous artist get promotion? They would probably rely heavily on the promoter. And that kind of the like Ryan said, I think the social media kind of flipped that on its back, and it's now the opposite, right?
But
Like
think about what that's done, right? Think about what that's done, though. It put the power back in the hands of the talent. Because if
right,
you, as even if you're an amateur Muay Thai athlete and you have 10,000 followers on social that are going to show up to come see you compete, you bring something to the table. Now, not all the promoters are going to find the value in that. Some will, of course, but you can take it back into your control, and you're monetizing yourself. I mean, we see the athletes always asking us about their sponsor logos on their shorts and can we wear this in the ring, and so they're getting some
they're
kind
getting
of
sharp.
deal off
They're
of
getting smart.
It's
Yeah.
like fixing your own plate, right? It's like you're not going to sit around and wait for someone to make you a plate. You got to get out there and get it yourself. So why would
And
you just
that's
on the promoter? They're going to help you, but you
right.
still have to make your own plate. You still got to go find your own food.
And I think, like you said, like Ryan mentioned, was that's has a lot to do with your following, and now you're able to have your own following rather than the artist or the performer or the athlete help the promoter's following. Usually back in the day, it was a lot of the heavy lifting was on the promoter, but also the promoter would have access to the entire audience. They were the ones that kind of created the narrative, and the artist and the athlete didn't really have a platform to actually have that. And that's kind of cool now, like, because like what Brandon says, correct. Like the athlete now has the platform and they have the power to kind of decide which promoter is best to put their talent on, right? Like, if I'm an artist, if I'm a singer, or if I'm a any kind of, I'm not going to want to go on some podunk show in the middle of, I don't know where, Flagstaff or something. I'm going to want to go to big city where promoters will get me the most audience and where I can reach most of my audience. And so, I like what you guys said as far as like bringing especially social media and the way people consume that. We really, the athletes have a lot more power to sway the needle a little bit, so to speak. So Vin, I want to say thank you for joining us. Any last words, anything you want to promote?
No, guys, thanks for having me. I look forward to seeing you guys in May.
Yeah, so May 24th, is that correct? May 24th, he's gonna have a show here in Phoenix. It's gonna be a pretty big show. We're gonna I think there's gonna be the semifinals of his 8-man tournament, and where he's giving away a all expense paid trip to Thailand. Is that correct? Yeah,
Yes,
so
sir.
that's a pretty big opportunity for an amateur. That's insane. If you want any information on that, actually, that's the Instagram at the bottom of the page, SAA_Alliance, and you can find the information on that show right there. He's promoting all the dates. You can get tickets on there. I believe there's a link tree to tickets, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Vin?
No, we haven't let the tickets out yet, but they will be out soon.
They will be out soon. Stay posted for that. Give them a follow. Next week we're gonna be joined by Rami Ibrahim. We're gonna be talking about an issue that's a bit of the next problem for Muay Thai, which is how do pros make a career? It's very difficult for an American Nak Muay to have a sustainable fight career in the U.S. And we're going to talk about some hypotheticals on what would it take, what changes do we need to make as a country, as a whole, to get Muay Thai up and running in as a pro, because the rest of the country, there is no delineation between a pro athlete and an amateur athlete. You're just an athlete that fights in amateur fights and pro fights. Maybe that might be the solution. Maybe that isn't, right? There's a lot of problems with that as well. We're going to discuss that and see if we can, we can get a debate going on what that could be, and maybe come to a conclusion on maybe a direction as a whole we need to take to help, because I feel like amateurs have plenty of fight opportunities nowadays. A lot of fight opportunity. You can fight in tournament. Honestly, as an amateur, you can probably fight 10 to 20 times a year if you really wanted to. It might be expensive. You have to fight in tournaments and stuff. But man, it was unheard of 15 years ago. 20 years ago, you were lucky if you fought once a year. If you fought once a year, twice a year is like, holy cow, how did you do that? And as a pro, once a year is pretty standard. That was pretty standard. You could not get more than one fight a year. God bless you if you did. You must have lived in Thailand or something, because it didn't exist here in the States. And so I would love to have that conversation with Rami and discuss, a little bit on what we should do. So again, Vin, thank you. Guys, great job. We will see you next week.
Next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.